Yo, let me know if you can hear me out there. Check 1, 2. Let me know if we got some volume there. And let's get right. Sergio, can you guys hear me all right? Let me know. Got you. All right. How about we get right on in to the debate? See if we can get some. I seem to have lost my volume over here for one reason or another. Let's find out what's going on. Can you guys hear what's going on there on the debate? Could just be that it's silent. Let's find out what's going on over here. No sound on the debate, of course. Well, let's just fix that out. We'll come back. We'll get her fixed up, gentlemen. Don't know why. I don't know if Fox News decided to cut their sound feed or what. But we're gonna get her figured out here. New system means some growing pains. It happens. For some reason, I'm not detecting any type of desktop audio. So that could be the issue. Oh, I think we might have it.
Roll away the pain on the trigger.
That's what it is. It's just Fox doesn't have any sound coming through right now on their stream. So my guess is when they get out there, the volume will come back up. So I think we're good, gentlemen. Let's go back to the debate. I see Chris. We'll see if he starts talking here.
Good evening. From the
There we go. Let me know if you guys hear him.
Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic. I'm Chris Wallace of Fox News, and I welcome you to the first
We had it. It was just silent.
presidential debate
Just silent. We're good.
between President Donald J. Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. This debate is sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates.
Got a whole
The
new
commission has designed the
setup
format
here,
of
gentlemen. So
roughly 15-minute segments with 2-minute answers from each candidate to the first
what
question.
good day waste.
Open discussion for
Let me
the
get
rest
you
of each
fixed
segment.
up over here.
Both campaigns have agreed to these rules. For the record, I decided the topics and the questions in each topic. I can assure you, none of the questions has been shared with the commission or the two candidates.
Day waste.
This debate is
Moderator.
conducted
Good
under
to
health
go.
and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic, which is serving as the health security advisor to the commission for all
Strange
four
echo,
debates.
huh? Let's try this.
As a precaution, both
Oops.
campaigns have agreed the candidates will not shake hands at the beginning
Is that
of
better?
tonight's debate. The audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent.
I
No
am
cheers,
in the
no
pew pew
boos or
room.
other
I will not
interruptions,
say
so
the
we,
word
and more
after what
importantly
happened
you,
yesterday.
can focus
Tell me
on
how
what
the echo
candidates
is now.
have to say. No noise except right now, as we welcome the Republican nominee, President Trump, and the Democratic nominee, Vice President Biden.
That's it. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's see if this works here. Tell me how that sounds.
Gentlemen, a lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject.
You guys ready for this? I know I am. I've been waiting.
President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question...
Thank you, Raymond. I appreciate that.
Why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first. 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So I think she's going to be fantastic. We have plenty of time, even if we did it after the election itself. I have a lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they're trying to do it faster. There's no way they would get it on.
It's true. The Democrats would not wait.
But the problem is they didn't have the election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this. Looking forward to this, Mr. President. The American people have a right to have a say in who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States.
Which they already did.
They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is. Because that's the only way the American people get to express their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear.
It was done in 2018.
The Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that. He ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act.
It's going to be interesting to see
which will strip $20 million
exactly what
from
Chris Wallace is willing to do. A lot of people think he's going to throw Trump under the bus here. I kind of tend to agree with him.
And the justice, and I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing is on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be held for more money because she has a
He's pausing and freezing. You guys see it?
They're able to charge more and more for the same exact
First question, he's stuttering.
Yes. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act.
He looks a little nervous, boys.
People have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, the insurance companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. as far as the say is concerned, the people already have their say.
That's what I said.
Okay.
That's what we all say.
Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly, at some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have the president.
It's elected to the next
During that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the 100 million people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to
know where you got that number.
180
He has no
million
choice
people
but to
with
laugh.
private health care, that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialists. You're going to socialists.
We're now into, gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won, we're saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance.
You're right, Raymond. Absolutely right.
They do. They will under my proposal.
He's not elected for 3 years. He's elected for 4.
That is simply
The party
a lie.
doesn't say
Or
the
8.
party wants to go socialist.
My
Or
party
12.
is
And
me.
socialists
Could go for 12.
and they're going to dominate.
Might be 12.
Joe, you know that.
I am
Just saying.
the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
Not according
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing disease. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them
Thank you,
going
Jessica.
forward if you
Just
strike
saw your
down
comment.
the Affordable Care Act?
Joe, you've had 308,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And if you were here,
Here we go.
there would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which was heavily
Mr. President.
infected. You would have been much later, Joe.
Mr. President.
So here we go.
I'm talking
Here
about
we
2
go.
million people.
Mr. President, as a moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that the president also is opposed to Roe v. Wade. That's on the ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is all
You don't know it's on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Why is it on the ballot? It's not on the ballot.
it's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would
And you
just
don't
be quiet
know
for a
her view on Roe v. Wade.
We all knew Trump was going to eat
All
him
right,
for lunch, boys.
All right, let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time, so
No, you only got
on
90
healthcare.
minutes. 90 minute
Then we'll
beat
come
down.
back to Roe v. Wade.
90 minute
Mr. President,
beat down.
the Supreme Court will hear a
Beat
case
down.
a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to get good health care.
If I
Yes,
may ask
you're right,
you a
Jessica.
question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well,
I
I'll give
got
you
rid
an
of the
opportunity. When I
individual
finish, I'm going to
mandate.
give you an
Excuse me.
opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a
That
big
is not
chunk
a
of
comprehensive plan.
That is absolutely a big thing. That was the
I-
worst
I
part of
didn't ask,
Obamacare.
sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part of
me.
Obamacare.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of Obamacare. I got rid of it.
I'd like
And
you
we
to,
will
Mr.
protect people.
President, I'm the
with pre-existing
moderator of this
diseases.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer.
Go ahead.
You, in the course
Yeah,
of
you
these
gave
4
him
years,
permission.
have never come up with a comprehensive
Trump.
plan.
Oh, this is why we love Trump. You don't put up with no one's shit.
Obamacare. And just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay.
Oh.
So let me just tell you something.
Okay.
There's nothing symbolic. I'm cutting
Called
drug
him right out
prices.
from
I'm
the
going to
beginning.
favorite
I
nations,
like it.
which no president has the courage to do because you're going against big pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care. All of the things that we've done, insulin. I give you an example. Insulin. It was destroying families, destroying people because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water. You want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs what we're doing, prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because they pay just a tiny fraction.
This is open discussion.
No, but this is big stuff.
Sir, you'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the vice
So
president.
far, he's got a bigger debate going with Chris Wallace than he does Biden. Biden's sitting over there wondering what he's doing there on the stage.
The Republicans make is that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
I start asking you the question. And it will end.
Party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still
Doesn't look like the drugs work,
in
boys.
that option. Number one.
Joe, you agree with Bernie Sanders' far left on the manifesto, we call it. And that gives you socialized medicine.
Look, here,
Are you saying
I'm not
you
going to
didn't
listen to him. The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat the whole hell of a lot. I'm
Not by much.
Pocahontas would have left 2 days early. You would have lost every prize.
All he knows how to
on
do is
Super Tuesday. You got very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very
It's getting
lucky.
good, guys. This is exactly what we were waiting for.
I'm going to make sure because here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply.
Oh, we all knew
I'm
Chris
not
was
here
going
call
to.
out his lies.
But everybody does. The whole establishment's against Trump.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class. First thing.
Oh!
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has,
You'd be
you know,
surprised.
you pick
Be surprised.
the wrong guy, the wrong night at the wrong time.
Listen, you agreed with
Here's the
Bernie
deal.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
Let him.
There is no manifesto. Number
Please let him
one.
speak, Mr.
Number two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
Absolutely.
folks, do you have any idea what this clown's doing? You have any idea?
Socialized medicine.
Mr.
I'll
President.
tell you what. He is not
Folks.
for any help for people needing health care. Because he, in fact, already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number
His
two,
recession?
There are 20 million
What
people
recession?
getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give
Number
you better
three.
health care at a much lower price because
by the way, he
Obamacare is
doesn't know how. He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't.
Gentlemen, you realize if you're both speaking.
Biden's looking really weak, guys, and Trump's looking like the fighter he is.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, that. They shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people. Okay? I said, you got to run it so well. And I just had a meeting with them. They said the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare,
Gus.
it's a disaster. It's too expensive. Premiums are too high. And it doesn't work. So we do want to get rid of it. Chris, we want to get rid of it.
I understand this, sir, but I have to give you roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
He has no.
That's all the Democrats have, Jessica. Their entire platform is basically anything but Trump. Anything but Trump is their entire platform. No, you're absolutely right. That's all he's got.
Since he got elected, he has none. Like almost everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan.
He doesn't have a
And the
plan.
fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
He's had a plan for 4 years. He just needs a House back.
Mr. Vice President, if Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here, if Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you
Discord,
willing to
you
tell the
guys with the
American people
debate
tonight
bingo.
whether or
My
not
God, you guys are
support
killing
either
it.
ending the filibuster or
Epic,
packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people
Matter
should
of
speak.
fact,
You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
You're gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
your
to answer the
senators.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why would
because,
you answer that
because
question?
the question is, the
radical
question-
left.
will you
Who is
shut
on,
up, man?
listen, who is on your list, Joe?
This
Who's
is
on
so,
your list?
Gentlemen,
this is-
I think
this
we've
is
ended
so
this.
He's going to pack
unprecedented.
the court.
We have
I'm
no,
not
no.
going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Yapping, man.
The people understand.
keep yapping, man.
47
Oh, he's trying to get spicy over there, huh?
The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject. So
It's the link there for the Discord if you guys want to join on over at the Discord.
Of coronavirus in the United States.
Patriots for a Better America.
200,000 people have died. Even after we produce a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far and what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, the question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000.
Good luck.
As you said, over
There we
7
go.
million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 5%, 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people a day are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he
Discord's
do?
on fire.
He's on tape. He's acknowledging he knew it.
Thank you,
He said he
Jesco.
didn't tell
Glad
us
to have you
that
over there at
people warned
Discord.
him of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and we were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing.
Xi?
He said we owe him
You
a
mean
debt
Xi?
of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I
Man.
laid out back in March exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing.
Let's see if
We
they
should be
actually give
providing
Trump
all
his
the
full 2 minutes, huh?
protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap.
Out of
Get
your
in
bunker?
the golf course and go in the Oval Office.
Who's
and
in the
be good for
bunker?
The Democrats, Republicans, and fund what
It's
needs to be
Biden
done
who's
now
hiding
to
in the
save
bunker. He
lives.
went.
So if we,
How did he actually do
You
that?
have 2 minutes, sir.
if we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should
You
have
guys
never
believe
happened.
he said
They
bunker?
stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic. He's a racist, and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country.
We're not
Wait a
starting.
minute.
It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was too.
Can't even
it was
believe.
terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2
How did
months.
Biden say
By
he was
my
hiding in
doing it
the
early, in
bunker?
fact, Dr. Fauci said President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of your Democrat governors said President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. Far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press. They give me bad press because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've gotten used to it. But I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you
done.
didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own team was a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was
A
no
very
economic recession.
Sir, you made a
A
point.
far
There
less
was no
legal
electricity.
disease.
You made a point. Let him answer.
And there was no one. We didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he shut down. The reason it's shut down is because
What do you guys think?
you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or
Oh, here we
dad?
go.
You
So
couldn't
I'm put
even
on the
sleep
Sarah
in bed
McLachlan
without
music.
holding the phone up so you could, in fact, say
You
goodbye.
would have lost far
How
more
many
people.
people?
Far
That is-
more people.
And
You would have been
And by the way,
months late.
your own
You were months behind me,
his
Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up and he said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just the mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all. Nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a
Who's he
scientist.
pointing
You
at?
don't
We
trust
trust Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
Johnson, Pfizer.
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said it would be summer before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing.
It is.
I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to
Just
speak to.
curious,
We
out
have
of everybody who's
Moderna,
watching,
Johnson & Johnson and others.
vaccine
They can
comes
move
out
faster than
tomorrow.
that by a lot.
Are you taking it?
Become very political.
Are you not
because
taking
the
it?
left, or I don't know if it's
So
called
you're
left, I don't
suggesting
know what
that
I
the
call it.
head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui...
I disagree with it. No, I disagree with both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just
He
like
said
Dr.
it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also be
I'm talking about when
after
it's
that.
generally available.
Well, we're going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up logistically. They're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
this is
delivering
the same man.
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
By Easter, this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it.
Oh
This is the
I would
same
say
my
sarcastic.
God.
I would have said
And
sarcastic.
so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine.
Here we go.
Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
We'll have the vaccine
I
soon.
want to pick up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying that public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't,
knows.
Senator
And-
Harris is saying
no.
you can't trust the
Oh,
science.
well, no, you can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She
the
said the public
This
health
guy right
research,
here?
quote,
No, that
will
guy.
be muzzled, will be
Yes.
suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do.
This
but
guy's gonna
there's
win.
Millions of scientists,
That guy over there,
thousands of scientists
not so
out there,
much.
like here at this great hospital, that don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him. That's not. They're the people. And by
I
the way,
spoke to the
and
scientists that are in charge.
By the way,
they will have the vaccine very soon.
do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people die. And a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
So,
Mr. President?
did you use the word smart? You
Did
said you went to Delaware State.
you
but
say
didn't have to
smart?
go to your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use it.
Oh!
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about it. For 47 years, you've done nothing.
Let's have this debate.
And if you would have had, let me just tell you something, Jeff.
Okay.
If you would have had
Don't
charge
use
of what I was
smart
through, I had to close
with
the
me.
greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
See,
And
We're
it's
going
going
to
up
get to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay.
Look forward to it.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide.
I know what the
these
plan was if I was
businesses the
running.
ability to have the money to be able to reopen.
You are
with
running.
PPE, as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to
Tell
provide
that to
them
Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi.
Then, well, he's just shush for a minute.
Tell it to
See,
Nancy
no.
Pelosi. And
And
Schumer.
by the
Brian
way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with them in the Senate.
He's willing to
He
meet
sits-
with them.
He sits in his golf
It's
course.
them.
I mean, literally, think about it.
Sits in his
Think
golf
about it.
courses.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact
Well, he wants to shut down this country.
Oh.
And I want to keep it open. And we did a great
He
thing
just
by
admitted
shutting
he
it
shut
down.
it down.
Wait a minute, Jeff. Let me shut you down for a second, Jeff, just for 1 second. We want to. He wants to shut down the country. We had to because we didn't know.
Let me
anything
shut
about
you
the
down
disease.
for a
Now we
moment.
found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children.
You're
are.
damn right, Raymond.
Even
You are
younger people
damn
are.
right.
We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have Democrat governors all. One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election.
All right,
November
I want to
3rd.
move on to another
Because
subject.
it's a
I want to move
political-
on to another
I gotta
subject.
respond. But those states are not doing well that are shut down.
Which is
All right,
why
gotta respond. What's
President
the shutdown
Trump, you
of
have
the-
begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease.
He really
preventer.
is. He's
And
always
in fact,
got something
recently
to
you were
slam him
fighting
back with.
the issue
That's
of-
why we love him.
of waiters
That's
touching their
why
masks
we
and touching
love
plates.
him.
Are you questioning
No, I think
the
masks are
efficacy
okay.
of
You have to
masks?
understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on it, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rally.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear a mask like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say,
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well, masks
Oh!
make a big difference.
Was I answering the wrong question? Thanks, Chris, for putting me in the right direction there.
If everybody wore masks and social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
and they've also
It
said the
matters.
opposite. They've
And
also said
no serious person said the opposite. No serious.
Dr. Fauci said
He did not say that.
He said very strongly, masks are not good. Then he changed his mind. He said masks are good. I'm okay with masks.
What is going on?
About one last subject, because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people. Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with
nobody will show up.
People will
Exactly what I was thinking. Because nobody shows up.
Why you holding the big rallies? Why you not?
I still have not seen a single Biden sign driving around. I haven't seen one.
My job as a president, and I'll have 25, 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you not worried about
we have a lot of people. Well, so far, we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. We do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours notice.
There we go.
And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. And that's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing on one another.
We've had no negative effect.
No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And we've had 35, 40,000 people in these rallies.
Just quickly finish up because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks.
Trump has been fine. Trump is doing.
All right, and he's a fool on that.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy is, I think it's fair to say, recovering faster than expected from the shutdown.
Here we go.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President Trump, you say we are in a V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in
history.
Yes, sir,
we
closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now. Instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down.
For all you cat people in the Discord.
Business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week. You saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance. They can wash their hands. They can wear masks. They can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country and destroy our country. Our country is coming back.
Biden got nothing to say about economy.
Setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you. As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion because of his profligate tax proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton and Claymont and all the small towns and working class towns in America, how well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no.
No, here we go.
Yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
I get my time back.
Here we go.
The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have gone out there dying, people who have been putting themselves in a way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't schools open? Because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. Then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people.
Small businesses didn't get checks.
Can't open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir. We are going to get to...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York. It's so sad what's happening in New York. It's almost like a ghost town. And I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. And people of Ohio are very proud of me. And you know how I found out?
Gentlemen, we're going to get to your economic plans
football, by the way,
forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax.
Here we go.
Each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, there was a story in one of the papers. I paid $38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million.
Show us your tax returns.
I went, you'll see
it. Shut up, Grandpa.
Finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under-leveraged because the assets are
investigated president in history.
I'm asking you a specific question, which is...
let me tell you.
I understand all of that. I understand all that. No, Mr. President, I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So not $750.
Millions of dollars. And you'll get to see it. But let me just tell you, Chris, let me just say something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We built the building and we get tax credits like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to respond?
Yeah, I do want to respond.
Of course he wants to respond.
The tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher on the money a school teacher makes is because...
What is he even saying? What is he even saying?
He can take advantage of the tax.
You're right, Raymond. A president does not have to show his tax returns.
That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And we're going to
eliminate
those tax cuts. and make sure
Yeah,
that we
tell
invest
everybody.
in the people who, in fact,
Your tax
need help.
cuts gone.
People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you
Why
weren't
didn't
president.
you do it over
Because
the
you
last
weren't
25
president
years?
screwing things up.
You were a senator. And
You're
by
the
way,
worst
you were a
president
vice-
America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just say, Joe, I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of,
Okay.
including fixing the broken military.
What is he messing with? What's Biden messing with? Did you see him messing with something down there in the podium?
I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward, because Mr. Vice
Is he
President,
getting
your
messages
economic
and stuff
plan,
sent to him?
if you were to be elected president, focuses
He was
a lot
pushing
on big
buttons.
government,
Did you
big
guys see that?
taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that kind of an increase in taxes.
What does he have
is
hidden up
going
there?
to
He was
hurt the
pushing
economy
buttons. I
and
think he's
just
getting
coming out
messages sent into him.
Well, just take a look at what is the analysis done by Wall Street firms. Points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional
Raymond.
$1 trillion
Absolutely.
in economic growth, because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make
Somebody's sending him
$600
information.
billion
We all thought he'd have like an
a year on
earpiece in, but I think he's
ships
got an electronic
to
device
steel
there sitting right in
buildings
front of
and the
him.
like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But respectfully, sir, I'm talking about taxes, not
You know
spending.
Well, by the way, I'm going to eliminate
Be right back.
significant amount of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500, who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of
Why
dollars.
didn't you do it
Billions
before
of
when you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was
That's right.
your
I got
tax
it.
proposal.
I got it done. And you know what happened?
You got it done.
Our economy boomed
And
like it's never boomed.
The economy is
Mr. President,
busted.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes for American people.
But let me.
Excuse me.
But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs.
You had to grab a
than in
couple
the first
things.
3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery
First,
economic recovery since 1929.
pizza.
It was the slowest recovery. Also,
Second,
took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on the lights and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means
It's a good hat.
401ks. If you
But
got
for the debate-
you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty
Half
of
of the
companies that are
companies
already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look,
Mr.
we
Vice President.
inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
He blew
booming.
it. He
It
blew it.
wasn't booming.
It was a-
it was the weakest
Well,
recovery
sir, is it
since
fair to, wait, is
1929.
it fair to say he
Why
blew
is
it
Chris
when,
interrupting
in
you?
fact, when there was record low unemployment
Yeah.
before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing
What?
went in the hole.
Excuse
Number
me,
one.
Chris.
What?
Number two.
He's
Chris,
full of
number
shit.
three.
They said it would take. No, you're number
Biden's
two.
full of
No.
shit.
Chris. They said it would
This
take a
guy.
miracle to bring back manufacturing.
Mhm.
I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of
not
my
do
standard fare.
I'm the guy
He
that brought
told
back.
Obama said you need a magic wand.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies
No.
came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to
They're
Ohio.
not having.
And they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same
Biden's just
way.
lying. He's
He
just
talks
lying
about
his way
trade
through this whole
deals.
thing.
You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's
You guys can Google the video.
We have a higher deficit. with China
Obama
now
said
than
you
we
would
did
need a
before.
magic
We have the
wand
highest deficit
to
trade
bring back
deficit.
manufacturing. Magic
China
wand.
ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he takes out
Ate your
billions
lunch.
of dollars, takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars, and also
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why is it? Just out of curiosity. The mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
That's
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What did he do with Barissa?
None of
Gus is
that-
getting close to a bingo there in Discord. He needs one more Law and Order.
None of that is true.
Oh, really? He didn't
Totally,
get
No, Mr. President.
it's
Mr.
totally,
President, please.
totally
Ask the question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he didn't get $3.5 million?
Shoot.
Mr.
I'm the guy.
$3.5 million.
that is not true.
Oh, really?
Mr.
Oh.
President,
But-
it's an open discussion, please.
No,
You
My
have
shoe
to-
and Kiva, it looks like you guys have
If you're gonna raise
bingos.
an issue, let the
It's been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Barissa pay him
report.
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
my son did nothing wrong at Barista.
I think he did.
Mr.
The only
President,
guy-
Oh, here we
I'm
go.
answer-
Where's Hunter?
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth.
Where's Hunter?
This has been totally, thoroughly discredited.
By who?
And
The media.
By everybody. Well, by the
By the
media,
media,
by our
because they refuse
allies,
to
by
talk
the
about it
World
because they're
Bank,
embarrassed.
by everyone as discredited. Matter of fact, even
Mr.
the
President,
people who testified.
Anybody got Where's Hunter on bingo?
So let me ask you this.
Henry,
no, go ahead, Mr. I'm listening to you.
People under
You got $3.5
He
million from
testified-
Moscow.
he testified under oath in his administration. Said, "I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh,
I
really?
did it
I'd like to know who
honorably."
they are.
Well, I'll give you the list
I'll
of the
find
people who
them.
No,
testified.
go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a good job.
Some people don't.
Well,
do a good
here's
job.
it.
With you.
Go ahead. You
Here's
get
the-
wait a minute. You get the final word.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me, this.
Hey,
this
let me just
person.
say that.
Oh,
No, Mr. President.
$3.5
we call him a
million.
clown.
That is simply.
Here we
Why
go.
did
not
he
true.
deserve $3.5
He's
million
getting
from
into his,
Moscow?
Look,
he's getting into his
here's the
head.
deal.
Rent
You
free.
want to talk about families and ethics? I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's
My
already.
family
No, no, let him do-
lost a fortune by coming down and helping us with government.
And that's such a.
And the right
that's a-
hand-
Mr.
that's such
President.
a
Every
great.
single one of them lost.
This is not
Mr.
about my
President,
family or his family. It's about your family.
They didn't
American
His
people.
life was a hell of a lot better before
That's not
government.
true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you. That's what we're talking about.
And you should-
All right, that's
Not
the end
about
of
you.
that's the end of the segment. We're moving on.
It didn't take that.
Vice President, no.
Can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
No, I
He stood
understand.
up.
No,
He stood up
the answer to
and
the
he
question is
threatened
no.
Ukraine
No, sir.
with $1 billion.
Sir,
If you
that
get rid of
is
the-
You know what, you're
absolutely not
Stop.
true.
Take
You're-
doing it.
You're going to
Not
have,
true.
gentlemen.
Is-
I hate to raise my voice, but
He's
it seems to me, why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the deal.
Good point.
We have 6 segments.
Put him in
We have
timeout,
that
Chris.
segment.
Put him in
We're
timeout.
going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I've been asked a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Oh, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting.
Oh, that's
than
all
you
right,
have.
but he does plenty.
Well, less than, sir, less
There's
than,
plenty.
no, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago,
Chris is deep
when he
state,
talked
y'all.
about very fine people on both sides, was
Definitely
what
deep state.
directly led you
He's deep state like this is
to
deep
launch
dish.
this run for president.
Oh, yeah.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you have done more for Black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
It's about equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the
Oh God,
Constitution.
Sarah McLaughlin music
And
again.
we've never
Democrat
walked
playbook.
away from trying to require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed.
Here we
And
go.
they asked the president what he thought. He said, "We're very
Race
fine
baiting.
people on
Race
both
baiting.
sides." No president's ever said anything like that.
It is this
Now,
sir.
second point I'd make is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful protest in front of the White House.
Pandering.
What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church.
They didn't
and
use
hold up
tear
a
gas.
Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle
Pandering,
to try to
pandering,
generate
pandering.
racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in
Fine, he's showing his
1,000
true
African
colors.
Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus.
He's showing who he
And if
backs.
he
He
doesn't do
backs
something
Black
quickly, by
Lives
the end of the
Matter.
year,
They should have
1 in
touched on
500
law and
people have
order
been killed.
in this
1 in
debate.
500 African Americans. This man is a savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did. And what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So, President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you over your opponent to deal with racism?
Did a crime
Finally,
bill
Discord
in
says I'm
1994.
streaming
where
live.
you call
It
them
finally worked.
super predators, African Americans, super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir. It's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they called you super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community, you have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that, because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, and as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost
There we
every
go.
law
Law
enforcement
and order.
in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have
New York.
Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because
Did I call it?
You know what? If they called us
Law
in
and order.
Portland,
I called
we
it.
would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case, decided not to charge any of the police.
That's going to be talked about as one of the top 2 moments in this debate.
Whether justice
top
could be
3. Top 3.
applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples. And when they occur, when they find them, they have to be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire...
You ain't never going to be President of the United States.
Everything from the civil rights groups to the police officers, to the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it, but we have to have a system where people are held accountable and by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right.
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place?
That is not peaceful
protest.
President
No,
Trump,
it's
I'm not
not,
asking.
but you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the issue of race. I promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order in a moment.
Makes you wonder who wrote that for
Your
Biden.
administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white
Gus,
privilege. or
congrats on your
critical race
bingo.
theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody else. And he would know.
What is
Oh,
radical
it's totally
about
racist.
racial sensitivity training?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life. It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we would pay people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to allow that to happen. We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden.
That's true. That's why they're tearing down all our statues.
He's racist. Here's the deal.
He's
I know a lot more
racist?
about it.
Did he just randomly pull out that he's
The
racist
fact is that
out of nowhere?
there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them,
What is
what
going on?
demeaning to them. It's important that people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grow up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all Americans. The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama-Biden administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson, you go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look what happened in Baltimore. Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now. But the reason is that the Democrats that run these cities don't want to talk like you about law and order. And you still haven't mentioned. Are you in favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You follow.
Are you in favor of law and order? Go ahead.
You asked a question, let him finish.
Law and order. Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration. It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more.
It went up because of the riots.
Mr. President, you're going to
Mr. President, every record in the book.
Mr. President, you're going to be very happy because we're now going to talk about law and order.
Since we had trouble, we're Democratic-run cities.
That's exactly my question. There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer, particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact, there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime. It is crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have, our suburbs would be gone. By the way, our suburbs would be gone. And you would see problems like
he would know a suburb unless you took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not. I was raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles on racism don't work anymore. Suburbs.
You're the one telling the dog whistles on racism, you buffoon.
Kids to soccer practice and or to black
30
and
seconds
white
ago,
and
you just called Trump
car
racist.
At any time in the past. What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means...
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control?
It's a great stat.
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police. The only one defunding it, his budget calls for a $400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up,
that is reported violent crime rate in the United States from 1990 to 2019.
Having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what they're talking about, Chris. That's not what they're talking about. He's talking about defunding.
He's lying.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any
Biden
law
is lying.
support. He has no law enforcement.
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
That's
nothing.
not. Look.
All right, who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead.
Look,
think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
All right. Name one law enforcement group.
Name one. Name one.
I'm going to take back the moderator's role, and I want to get to another subject,
can't name one, guys.
which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland, Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. The Vice President, you say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is, as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president.
Let me answer for him.
I've made it clear.
No,
I've made it clear
he has
in my
not.
public statements that the violence should be prosecuted. It should be prosecuted. And anyone who commits it
but
should
you've
be
never
prosecuted.
called for the people, the leader, excuse me, sir. You have never called for
Chris
the
is being
leaders
fair.
in Portland and in Oregon to call and bring in the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way.
Oh, really?
Here,
Oh, really?
here's the thing.
I sent in the U.S.
I asked
Marshals
you a
to get the killer of the young man in the middle of the street, and they shot him. And for 3 days,
President Trump
Portland wouldn't do anything. I had to send in the U.S. Marshals, and they took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, his own former spokesperson said, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said it.
I do.
Who?
I Duke?
Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said it.
She said that. And so here's
All right.
But here's the point. The point is that that's what he keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things
I
down.
think we're tuned into the
Instead
biggest
of
shit
going
show
in
on
and
TV,
talking to
guys.
people and saying, let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly and every single solitary time.
And to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly criticized.
I have to answer his statement.
You have repeatedly. You've been talking.
You made a statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to end it.
sir.
I would love to end it.
If you want to switch seats,
we could very quickly.
We can do that. But I'm
send in the National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay.
But they don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups?
Of course he is.
And
absolutely
to say
he will.
That they
not militia
need
groups.
To stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw
They
in
tricked them.
Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland.
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared
to
to
do that,
specifically
but
do it? Go
I
ahead,
would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right
So
wing.
what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see
Well,
peace.
then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would you like me to condemn?
white supremacists and right
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left. This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not militia. That's what his FBI director said.
Well, then you know what?
No, we're done, sir. We're moving on to the next. We're moving.
That's not an idea.
Everybody in your administration tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous
All right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump and Biden records.
They'll overthrow you.
When a president, I'm going to ask a question. When a president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the Almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both
I don't even know what to say. I'm kind of speechless after that last
why
segment
should
here.
voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than
I don't think Trump is very familiar with the Proud Boys as an organization.
Hoax. And you saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton.
But I do
where it was
like
a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, we had to fight both flanks and behind me.
I do like that he backed off
that's done what
and immediately went after
Antifa.
Antifa.
Before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest employment.
Don't be surprised if the Democrats.
Everything was going. And by the way,
don't be surprised if the Democrats don't use that and say Trump wouldn't condemn white supremacists.
And they were saying,
don't be surprised.
And then what happened? We got hit, but now
bullshit. But don't be surprised if they try pulling
off the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I have so
from the
many
Pew
judges,
Pew room. Let's get a picture over there in the Discord.
128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president, but I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term, 300 judges. It's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it.
Chris Wallace is absolute trash.
And he caused the recession. With regard to being weaker, the fact is that I've gone...
Yeah, Raymond, you're right. Putin. He's absolute. He's been lying this whole time.
He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses
He's
to even say...
Putin's puppy, by the way. Putin's puppy, by the way.
His son got $3 million.
Wow.
And by the way, my son...
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word.
No, I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question. Go ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes, you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more. just since COVID. You in the home,
That's overall
less.
well.
You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot. And the people left behind there were heroes. Really? And I resent.
Are you talking about Hunter? Are you talking about
I'm talking about my son, Bo Biden. You're talking about
I don't know, Bo. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter got thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. It wasn't dishonorably.
Cocaine use. He didn't have a job until you became vice president. And once you became vice president, he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
that is simply
and various
not
other places.
True.
He
My
made
son,
a fortune.
My son,
and he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it. And I'm proud of him.
But why was he given tens of millions?
All right, if he wasn't given tens of millions of dollars, that is totally discredited.
You've already been
totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial subjects. Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make it.
That didn't work very well for Biden. He thought it was going to.
That's not true. That report is totally discredited. Mitt Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
You know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Okay.
Of course he would. Of course Biden would want to get off of his son and get on to climate change.
Displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blamed the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records. What do you believe about the science of climate change? And what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful clean air. We have now the lowest carbon. If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally. But I haven't destroyed our businesses. Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint. And people are actually very happy about what's going on, because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest floors
That's why California's
are loaded up
burning
with
every year.
Dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you believe about the science of climate change?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very exciting.
You believe that human pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of the planet?
I think a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. But I also think we have to do better management of our forests.
They didn't expect him to answer that way.
I get the call. California's burning. California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they live their forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir, we have trees that are far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground. That's burning down because of a lack of
management. Sir, if you believe in the science
Democrat-run cities and states,
back the Obama
by the way,
Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants, why have you relaxed?
Because it was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars?
Well,
cheap gas prices.
What's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car. and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by $3,500.
California, they simply
No, but it would take a lot of cars off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out. But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And I'm okay with electric cars too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record. But
I don't think Trump could have done any better on climate change, considering.
$2 trillion in green jobs.
But here we go. Here comes.
New limits, not abolishing.
Here comes the Green New Deal.
Fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's
no more cows
on their electric vehicles, making sure
no more airplanes
with 500,000 charging stations and all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now to create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035.
This guy makes my head hurt.
Not only not costing people jobs, creating millions of good paying jobs, not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage, by having a new infrastructure that in fact is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord. I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it,
hit him, Trump.
It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More.
Brazil is not our problem. It's not our problem.
In the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion. Say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line?
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have
cow farts.
automobiles.
That's what they're talking about when it comes to methane. Cow farts. They want to get rid of your cows, people.
It's all true. And here's the deal
about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down buildings and rebuild the building.
No,
it's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out the cows. That's not true either, right? This is a $100 trillion. That's more money than our country could make in 100 years if we're
not the case.
All right, let me because wait a minute, sir. I actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds...
of course they are, Raymond. That's what CNN does. They're gonna fact check everything he said, but nothing Biden said.
The fact is,
we should fact check him. If you guys are over in Discord,
and these
We should be
tax
keeping
incentives
a running tally here of all of his
He wants
lies
to
so we can
get
fact
rid of
check him.
It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
That's he did say.
You made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up.
We are going to.
There you go, CNN. There's a lie.
We can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend billions of dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happening just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties.
These hurricanes and these storms were happening under Obama, people. They haven't gotten worse. They are the same.
Of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
But the Democrats,
It's all about. Why didn't you do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is not my plan.
That's
Green
New
Deal.
Yes, it is.
My plan.
Yes, it is.
Gentlemen,
He made a statement.
He said he put AOC in charge.
Something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
What
very
he
true.
did is
You're done in the segment.
he called
Mr.
the
Vice-
military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I did
Said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He said
Mr.
stupid bastards.
Please,
Not said
sir,
it.
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that.
play it.
Stop.
Play it.
Go ahead. Mr.
You're on
Vice
tape.
President.
Play the somebody put the link in Discord. Somebody put the link where he called them stupid bastards. Put that in the Discord, please.
But, and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your environmental changes will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. You're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
Do you
You're going to
support
build
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
You support
No, I don't support the Green New Deal.
You don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just
Biden.
lost the radical left.
I support the Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
The Biden plan, which is different than
The
what
Biden
you call
plan,
the
by the
radical
way.
Green New Deal.
All right,
Hashtag
gentlemen,
the
final
Biden
segment.
plan.
Election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election? And what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks? Because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com. Decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there's no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind a Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote, vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote in person. Vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that will be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand You have it in your control to determine what this country's going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change? Or you get 4 more years of these lies?
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won and even before I won. From the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady, they were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country. And we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that because we caught you in a sense. And President Obama was sitting in the office. He knew about it too. So don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found some with the name Trump, just happened to have the name Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd. You watch it and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost for that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud, and it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states for that.
Sir,
all run by
2 minutes
Democrats.
is 2 minutes.
All run by Democrats. It's
President Trump,
it's a rigged election.
you're going to be able to continue.
If you
have been
can,
charging for months of
do
mail-in balloting,
your
that
ballot
it's
in
a disaster,
person.
You say it's rigged, that it's
and
gonna lead
deliver
to
that.
fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted.
If you have no choice but to mail it in,
That was
mail it in.
a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast
But if you
their
can
ballots
do it in
by
person,
mail.
do it in person.
Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
Well, what are you going to do about it? There are millions of ballots going out right now.
What you do is you go and vote. You do a solicited ballot, and that's okay, or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people...
You go and vote. You go and vote. Like they used to in the old...
Millions of people...
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending... They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country. This is not going to end well.
Yes, there is. There's been a lot of evidence.
5 states have had mail-in ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by election day. If it doesn't get in until the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes.
You're wrong.
I want to continue with you on this. Vice President Biden.
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes his statement.
No, excuse me. Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court, with a Justice Barrett, will settle any dispute?
I am concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. when you file,
I'm afraid of democracy.
And you fill it out.
Says Biden.
You're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I. Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, when you have 80 million ballots, Senate and swamping the system, you know it can't be done. You know it can't, and already
it's
been
so now, gentlemen, in the final question is, in 8 states, we can keep talking. In 8 states, election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states.
They're over the 90 minutes, guys.
Process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them. Until election day, that means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
it could be months,
until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally, for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest, and will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen. I am urging them to do it. As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia. Bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what, from a common sense, I'll tell you what it means. It means you have a fraudulent election. You're sending out 80 million ballots. They're not equipped to. These people aren't equipped to handle it, number one. Number two, they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket. I am urging my people. And they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
you think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question for you. Will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted? And will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes. Here's the deal. They count the ballots, as you pointed out. Some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent process.
It's already been established. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
You had an opportunity to respond.
Look at Carolyn Maloney. They have no idea what happened.
Vice President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal.
He has no idea what he's talking about. He's right, though.
You know why? Because
Trump is
once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans.
Bullshit.
And this guy,
I want to say,
gentlemen,
bullshit.
You say that's the end of it? This is the end of
He
this
ain't going to be a
debate.
president for us.
We're going to leave it there. To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating.
They went over by 10 minutes.
In the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in, we want to thank Case Western Reserve University and the Cleveland Clinic for hosting this event. The next debate, sponsored by the Commission on Presidential Debates, will be 1 week from tomorrow, October 7th, at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. The 2 vice presidential nominees, Vice President Mike Pence and Senator Kamala Harris, will debate at 9 p.m. Eastern that night. We hope you watch. Until then, thank you and good night.
Wow, guys, what do you think? Guarantee they don't shake hands. Oh, well, I mean, they're not going to from COVID anyways. Oh, Melania said hi to Joe. Well, let's discuss, folks. Let's talk about this. It's so awkward. So awkward with the stupid. Oh. Y'all hear that at the end? Best president of all time. We love you, Trump. All right, folks. Yes, in my opinion, the most beautiful first lady we've ever had. So, what do you think? What are your opinions here? I think it was just about everything we expected it to be. We expected Trump to come out and be Trump, and he was. He was classic Trump. He was classic Trump. I think he came out swinging. I think Biden tried, and I think it looked like it was forced. And I don't know. I mean, I saw Biden stuttering a lot. I saw Biden lying a lot. We know that CNN is going to come out with all the liberal media is going to come out with all these fact checks that look for little details so they can try to sway people's minds and stuff. But people have gotten smart to that. Yeah, you're right, and absolute disaster from Chris Wallace. But I think we all kind of expected Chris Wallace to be the deep state junkie that he is. I think I mean, honestly, I felt like Chris was a little bit more fair than I thought he was going to be, but I expected him to just be a complete disaster. There was a couple times where he kind of tried to but it was probably just to make it look like he was trying to be fair. But it's really easy to see that Wallace is a deep state junkie for sure. Man, but we had some good hits in there. Trump saying, "Don't talk to me about being smart." Don't talk to me about being smart. That was pretty epic. That was a great moment. I think I really thought Biden wasn't going to be stuttering as much as he was, but damn it, if he wasn't stuttering all over the place. He looked weak. I know that everybody was talking beforehand. They're going to be looking to see if Biden could keep up. He stuttered. He lost his train of thought a bunch. He did not. I mean, I think a lot of people are going to see that Biden is weak and Trump is strong. What do you get? Yeah, I mean, I saw at one point, I pointed it out in the live stream that it looked like he had an electronic device at one point. I pointed it out. You guys have to rewind the stream and look at it, but if you look in there, you see him looking down at something, and you see him typing. It was almost like answers were being fed to him while he was up there. And I believe I'm going to go back and rewind that and see if I can't clip it, but I absolutely believe he was being fed questions. You're right, Raymond. Absolutely. Yeah, Trump is a great president. You know, it was exactly what we thought. I mean, the Democrats do not have any type of policy. Their entire campaign is anything but Trump. You know, but I would have liked to see Trump hit him a little bit more on the law and order stuff and the riots and Biden siding with them. It's going to be interesting to see the fallout when the extreme left hears that Biden said he does not support the Green New Deal. That to me, I think that was a pretty big moment. Because up until now, they all think that he does support that, but apparently it's the Biden deal, by the way. The Biden deal. Yeah. Yeah, and every time Biden tried to fight back, it seemed forced. It's almost like he was instructed, don't let Trump run over you. It seemed forced. It didn't come natural. And you got to think, do you want Biden in there fighting for you whenever he's going up against Putin, when he's going up against Xi, when he's negotiating deals for our country? You want pushover Biden in there, or do you want Trump in there? Because Trump's gonna get what we want. Trump's already proven that. Before this virus, here's something to think about. When the coronavirus hit and the riots hit and all that, the lowest point that our stock market hit was still higher than any time during the Obama administration. Let that sink in. Our economy right now is recovering, but at the same time, they're saying that this virus has our economy in the dumps. So what would our economy be like if there was no virus? What would the economy be like if there was no riots? What would I think it's pretty obvious. I think anybody with a brain would know that and knows the answer to those questions. So it's I think it's a no-brainer. I think that's why we all back Trump the way we do. It'd be interesting to see who's going to be moderating the next debate. Trump and Chris Wallace did an interview, I want to say about a month ago or something, and Chris was being his normal lefty self. He says he's independent, he says he's down the middle, but I think anybody watching tonight, absolutely everybody on the right feels like Chris Wallace is a douche, and everybody on the left right now doesn't have a problem with Chris Wallace. If you go into their chats, they're not talking about Chris Wallace. That I can tell you. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Who do you guys think won? I think it's pretty clear to me. The people over in CNN, MSNBC, and all them, they're going to be like, nobody won. It was a disaster because Trump couldn't, blah, 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 Trump. Trump obviously won. What did you learn new about Biden today? The only thing I learned is that he's not supporting the Green New Deal, which is news to me. But other than that, he said everything I expected him to say. You're right, Jessica. Yeah, absolutely right. But I feel like that was forced. I think he said. But what was interesting is he tried to come out and defend his son, Beau. You guys notice that during the Democratic convention, they talked about Biden's son, Beau, the entire time. They did not mention Hunter, because Hunter is the son that's out there getting money from Ukraine, from China, doing all the dirty stuff, getting in trouble. So when Biden comes out and he's like, don't talk about my son like that, blah, blah, blah. He did that in order to make it look like he was talking about Hunter. But he screwed up really bad, and he's like, no, Hunter, your son that got kicked out of the military for doing cocaine and got all those deals or whatever. That was a great moment. I'd like to see some clips of that in the Discord. Oh man, what a night. I don't know what you guys think here of the new setup. I still got some more stuff to put together and whatnot. We'll get some direct audio going so that we can we have some better direct audio in from the inputs. I now have Streamwall installed as well. So if we have multiple streams that we want to watch, we can do that now. Got a pretty decent setup here, and got better IRL setup coming in as well. But we need to get these feeds out there. We need to get more people need to be able to see these. You know, if you guys aren't over on the Discord, the link is in the chat there, a little bit above. Share that with your Patriot friends. The Discord name is Patriots for a Better America. It has been doing really well, and we got a pretty good group of people over there. So, would love to see you over there. Would love to have you guys join the conversation and continuing to expand the Patriot movement, expand support for Trump, and really get our word out there and reach more people. So, anyways, folks, we are approaching the 2-hour mark here, and I really do appreciate your time. I appreciate you guys joining me for the debate. I go hunting this Thursday. I may or may not do a live stream tomorrow to kind of show you guys what goes into preparing to go out for hunting. Who downvoted Sergio? I've got a wild guess of who that could have been. A wild guess of who would have downvoted. I've got a wild guess of who that could be. It either starts with a C or it starts with an A. I'll leave it at that. But that's all right. We've got a little seed planted here. We're brand new. We're small. We're starting out real little. But we've got huge things coming. Huge things. And really glad y'all are here at the very beginning of this and watching where this goes and how it'll grow. I'm going to be consistent with it. And I'm excited for you guys to come along and be on the ride. I think we're going to switch on over to Discord for this conversation, but I think we're going to go ahead and call this one. Again, thank you so much for being in here. Oh, thank you for being here, Raven. I appreciate you. Hopefully the audio is decent enough to hear. I look forward to doing more of these type of things, some more current events and whatnot. So, all right, folks. Again, thank you so much for being here. Remember, make America great again. You got to support that thin blue line. You know, we've got a lot. We have so much more in common together. We're all going to have some disagreements. You know, some things that we're not always going to agree on, but in the end, we're all patriots. We all want what's best for our country, and we all support that Constitution. Remember, we've got more in common than we don't. So,
about that as well.
Thanks again for being here.
Topics, and
I'll catch you on the next one.